Okay, so in all seriousness, let's get going. I am extremely pleased and feeling very proud to be able to introduce our invited keynote speaker for this year's Student Speech and Language Therapy Conference. And it is our up-and-coming comedian, Ridley, also known as the Lost Voice Guy. Yep. Whooping is allowed. And the speech and language therapy team, most of my work colleagues are over in that corner, so they're the ones waving. Yep, there we go. The speech and language therapy team and I are really proudly to have you down in the southwest, in Devon. You've noticed the sunshine, that's what it's like all the time. And we're really proud that you could fit us in to what I understand is the last leg of your comedy tour, having taken in London before heading back up to Newcastle. So we are really pleased that you've been able to fit us into your schedule. Thank you. I know the money didn't entice you at all, but so that's really good because I've been emailing Lee on and off for a couple of years to try and hook up and to do a presentation. And I know in a couple of years' time you're not going to give us a look in because you'll be top-notch professional comedian, reminiscing on the days when you came to Marjon. So we're really pleased to have you here. I'm obviously really looking forward to hearing about your own unique insights on your life. I am looking forward to you being controversial. And obviously I'm really looking forward to having a good laugh. And I want to pick up on something that was attributed to the Guardian newspaper about how you find humour in strange places. So it's quite apt that you've come to this strange place, Plymouth Marjon University. So thank you very much. Take it away, Lee.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I know you all usually watch Holmes Under the Hammer at this time, so I appreciate you giving me your time. Luckily for me, I can still watch it on my iPad while I talk to you. Anyway, I'm sure you don't want to listen to my monotone voice all of the time. That is why I have brought my friend along with me today. Her name is Lucy, and I'll introduce her in a moment. Basically, I thought it would be nice if Lucy asked me some questions, which I would then answer for you. Some of the questions have been asked by people like yourselves, some I have made up myself, and the others are those questions that I'm already sick of answering. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lucy.
Thank you, Lee. And thanks for inviting me here today. I'm looking forward to getting to know all about you. I guess I better start by asking you about your background.
Well, I'm 36 years old and I'm from Newcastle, in the northeast. I studied journalism at university. I have worked for the BBC, in the media team at a council, and for a number of local newspapers in the northeast. I also do stand-up comedy. I first started doing that in February 2012, and it's been going really well. In fact, it has been going so well that I recently quit my day job to do stand-up comedy full-time.
And how did you end up not being able to speak?
That's a bit of a personal question for this early in the interview, Lucy, but fair enough. I was very ill when I was 6 months old, and I developed cerebral palsy as a result. In my case, it meant that I lost my speech, I walk very funny, and my right side of my body is weaker than my left.
Sorry to hear that. But isn't a career in journalism and stand-up comedy a bit of a weird choice for someone who can't communicate very well?
Yes.
Are you going to elaborate on that?
I guess I just never saw my disability as something that could hold me back. I've always loved writing, and being a journalist was the only career that I ever wanted to do. I was lucky that I had a great English teacher who taught me to follow my dreams. I'll never forget how much he pushed me to achieve my best. Obviously, I hated him for it at the time, but now I can appreciate what he did for me. Don't get me wrong. I knew that getting a job in journalism would be harder because of my disability. I didn't see that as a reason not to try, though. I guess I just had my heart set on it. I was lucky to have very supportive family and friends too. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. They never stopped me from doing what I wanted and were always the first to help out. Like I said, I never saw my disability as a barrier to doing anything. I was always going to be a journalist, I was always going to go to university, and I was always going to be independent. My disability is a big part of me, but I've never let it rule my life. Some people would say that's brave or courageous, but I don't believe it is. And I hate being called that. There's plenty of people who deserve to be called brave more than I do. I'm just a guy trying to get on with his life. As for why I decided to try stand-up comedy, I guess I'm just a bit mental.
So, what made you decide to try to do stand-up comedy?
I've always been a big fan of comedy, and I loved going to watch stand-up comedy myself. I'd always said that, if I could talk, that would probably be my dream job. I never expected to do it, though. I just didn't think it was possible. Then, some friends said that it might work, and that I should try it. I thought they were crazy at first, but the idea stuck in the back of my mind. Eventually, I decided to give it a try, because I knew I'd regret it if I didn't. It seems like I was right. Even after agreeing to do it, I was worried that it wouldn't work. I was scared that people wouldn't be able to understand me, and I'd just be standing there telling jokes to myself. I was worried it wouldn't work from a technology point of view either. Once my first gig was out of the way, though, I was much more confident about it all.
What are the main things that inform your material in terms of subject matter and specific topics? How would you describe the humour of a typical Lost Voice guy show?
My humour is very dark and twisted, I would say. I am influenced a lot by comedians such as Ross Noble and the League of Gentlemen, which explains a lot. I mostly concentrate on my disability and the funny side of it. I enjoy taking the mickey out of myself. I realise that this may make some people feel awkward, but I think that helps me. Because I base it on myself, I think I get away with it more. When people realise this, they tend to come on side.
How do audiences react when they realise you use a communication aid?
I think it varies really. a bit like it does in real life. Sometimes you can hear the gasp come from the audience when I walk onto the stage. I think that helps though, because they don't know what to expect. So when I hopefully make them laugh, I think they enjoy it more. It can't get any worse than in real life, when people think I'm deaf as well, and insist on writing everything down. Or start shouting at me for no reason. By getting up on stage, I'd like to think that I'm educating people, that disabled people are just the same as everyone else. I honestly believe that some people think that disabled people aren't allowed a sense of humour. Obviously, I don't really care what they think, but if it helps change someone's view, then it must be a good thing.
Have you given much thought to having a custom-made voice to do various tones or emphasis on words to enhance your act?
I'd love to have a voice that isn't as posh as this one, although I think it makes it funnier. I've thought about having a Geordie accent, but I'm not sure if I would like it or not. I've sounded similar to this all my life, so it would sound weird, I think. I'm also not sure if it's even possible at the moment. I definitely want to use different tones and stuff, if I can, in the future. I just think I can't express myself properly by only using this voice. It's very hard to sound excited or sarcastic, for example. I guess it all depends on what the technology has in store for us.
And how does the iPad compare to your very first communication aid?
It's certainly a lot smaller for a start. I think I got my first communication aid when I was about 8. Before that, I just used sign language. Obviously, this was a very limited way of communicating though. I think my first communication aid was called a touch talker, and it was pretty massive. I also remember being reluctant to use it. I can't quite remember why. All I can remember is having to carry this suitcase around with me, and then having to try to use it as well. I appreciated my speech therapist in the end. I think I only saw the benefits when I finally had a reason to use it. Such as in social situations when I couldn't just rely on sign language. Thankfully, technology has moved on since then. Now, I use a light writer for day-to-day communication. It's a brilliant device, and it's made me so much more independent. I especially like the fact that it has 2 screens, so that other people can read it if they need to. The voices have got better as well. I dread to think what the voice on the Touch Talker was like. If I'm honest, I didn't really like this voice at first. I think I had got used to the old voice on the light writer. I think I'm getting more used to it now, though.
What do you look for in a communication device?
If I'm honest, the light writer has just about everything I need. I'm not looking for anything fancy. As long as I can communicate effectively, then I'm happy. The speech on it is good too. It is pretty clear and understandable. It would be nice to make it more personal, but maybe one day that will happen. It also seems to survive all the times I have dropped it by accident, which is handy as well.
Do you prefer the iPad, or do you have another favourite communication device?
It depends on the situation I am in, really. I prefer using my iPad when I'm on stage because it's just quicker and easier to find what I'm looking for. It also looks sexier as well. I also prefer the iPad when I'm sitting somewhere and talking. However, I don't really like to carry it about with me. I find it is hard to get out and use quickly. It's also probably more likely to get stolen. So I still use my light writer when I'm out. As I have mentioned, the fact that the light writer has 2 screens makes it easier to talk to people when I'm out and about as well.
You won the BBC New Comedy Award recently. Tell us more about that.
Yes. Yes, I did. Thanks for reminding me. I'd completely forgot all about it. I just entered because I thought it was a good opportunity to help me develop as a comedian. I'm not really a big fan of stand-up comedy competitions, but when you look at the people who have won it in the past, I thought it was worth entering. I especially like the fact that the comedians were judged by other people in the industry, as well as the general public in the final. I think it gives it a nice balance. I definitely never expected to win the whole thing. I just thought I would give it a go and see how far I got. I couldn't really believe it when I won. It was a very special moment.
Would you have still done stand-up comedy if you hadn't lost your voice?
I like to think that I would have tried it, yes. I think not being able to speak has given me an advantage, because I'm a pretty unique act. So, I don't think I would have done as well as quickly. My disability has certainly got me more coverage than I would have. Let's hope they never find a cure for me.
And where can people find out more about you and where you are performing next?
What a very good question. People can visit my website, which is lostvoiceguy.com. Or they can also find me on Twitter or Facebook as Lost Voice Guy.
Thank you, Lee. You're a very interesting and intelligent guy.
How nice of you to say so.
Please will you do some of your stand-up routine for us?
I suppose so. Since you asked so nicely. You will have to introduce me though.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very funny Lost Voice Guy.
As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from around these parts of the country. So it's nice to be home in this generic town or city. I can see that some of you are trying to figure out where you know me from. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those comedians who brags about being on the television a lot. But, just so you know, I have been on television a lot. And I don't mean in a picture frame on top of my mother's TV. Mainly because it's the 21st century and the joke doesn't work with flat screens. I've appeared all over the world, in fact. My friend actually saw me on the news in India once. To be honest, I'm not sure I'm really reaching out to my target market. Maybe I should get a new agent. But if they want to book me for some gigs, I'll even try to find an Indian accent for my iPad. You probably don't recognize me from the television, though. I think my voice is more well-known than my face. Maybe it would help if I started saying phrases such as, "The next train to arrive on platform 4 is the 12:52 service to London King's Cross." And, from my time at the post office, "Please go to cashier number 4, please." I even had a job as a talking clock once, but it took me at least 10 seconds to type in the time, so I was always wrong. There's only a limited amount of work I can get as a voice-over artist, to be fair. Unless Stephen Hawking wants to release an audio version of one of his books, then there's pretty much no work for me at all. I am going to try to get more television work though. I hilariously fall over all the time, so I'm surprised the BBC haven't offered me a sitcom yet. I'm also the perfect candidate to be one of the zombies in The Walking Dead. I wouldn't even have to act. They would just need to tell me where to walk. I also applied to go on the Channel 4 show, The Undateables, once. But I seriously got rejected. I'm still not sure whether to take that as a compliment or an insult. They either think that I'm actually dateable, or think that I'm so undateable that not even they can help. So now my only hope is that they bring back Robot Wars. Don't pretend you wouldn't love to see me and Hawking go head to head and back to the death. I got the train to the gig today. I always like to sit in those seats for disabled people. It's just easier to get off. Anyway, I was in that seat and was about halfway here when another disabled person got on and asked me to move. I'll be honest, I didn't realize I'd be playing disabled top trumps when I got on, or I would have dressed more special. Needless to say, I didn't move. Who cares if he was both blind and deaf? I was there first. It was very awkward. He couldn't see that I was still there, and I couldn't tell him I wasn't moving because I can't speak. He wouldn't have heard me anyway. In the end, I had to throw his guide dog a stick. I didn't mean for them to end up under the train. I decided to get a taxi to the venue. I checked beforehand, and it didn't look that far. I thought I could easily afford it. The taxi driver had other ideas, however. I think he must have seen me coming and decided that I must be thick, as well as disabled. This was confirmed when he started shouting every word slowly at me. I could have told him to stop, but to be honest, it was very amusing, especially as I still couldn't understand his accent. Anyway, I ended up taking the longest taxi ride I've ever taken. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it cost an absolute fortune. Maybe it didn't help that I was confusing the taxi driver by pretending to be the satellite navigation system though. I do need to set a few things straight. Firstly, I'm not drunk and this is actually how I walk all the time. Despite what embarrassed parents might tell their children when they ask awkward questions as I walk past. I did spend 8 years as an alcoholic in a vain attempt to correct this issue, thinking that if I drank enough, I'd walk straight. Turns out it just aggravated the bladder issue further. The second thing I need to point out is this. I am not related to Stephen Hawking in any way. However, I do hate the way people take the mick out of the way he speaks. I can really synthesize with him. And last but not least, I need to point out this. I hate that we have so many politically correct words to describe disabled people now. When I went to school, I honestly went to a school with spastics in its name. They certainly knew how to make us feel good about ourselves. Now it's all special needs, special schools, Special Olympics. I don't know what is so special about me. That is why it always alarms me when I hear about special forces going to war. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been the Lost Voice Guy. If you find my voice, please contact me as soon as possible on Twitter or my Facebook page. If you have enjoyed laughing at a disabled man, please spread the word. To help you do this, I'll be selling some of my signed Lost Voice Guy DVDs featuring my previous Edinburgh shows. After the gig, trying to make back a bit of the money that the Tories have taken away in benefits. Please come and see me if you want to buy one. You've been a fantastic audience. Even if you haven't, I can't really change what I say at this point. I think that is enough from Lucy and myself. So now it's your turn. Does anyone else have any questions?
Thanks for that, Lee. It was great. I was just wondering, I'm not sure this ever happens to you, but if it does, how do you deal with hecklers?
I do have some comebacks stored just in case. And no, they are not suitable for lunchtime.
Do you get nervous before a performance?
I know I really should, but not really. I think I'm just a bit crazy.
Thanks for this, Lee. You've got an audience of speech and language therapists here. Is there one thing that we could do better from your point of view?
It's been a long time since I've used a speech therapist, so things have probably changed a lot. But I would just have to advise you to keep doing what you're doing. But don't encourage anyone to try stand-up comedy, because that's my thing.
Hiya, I'm from Newcastle as well. I was just wondering if you've done many gigs with kids. I know that might be a bit of a weird question, but in your hometown.
Yes, I've done one at a school in Newcastle, and it was very awkward because I didn't really know what to say. So I won't be doing that again.
Hi Lee, thank you very much, that was great. I'm very interested sometimes in watching stand-up comedians in terms of how they move to help them with their gigs and pacing up and down the stage and so on. Do you always do stand-up comedy or do you sometimes do sit-down comedy?
I try to always do it standing up because I think I have more control of the audience that way. Unless there's someone from the Department of Work and Pensions in, then I'll sit down and look really disabled.
Hello, hello. Oh, hi, I've got one final. Oh, well, I assume it might be towards the end. Comedians sometimes flirt with comedy, so with politics. Sorry, I was wondering, do you see yourself as a politician in the future?
No. I'm not used to my own voice asking me a question.
So we've got another, if we go to this question first, we'll to give Matt time to compose his question. Is that okay? Yeah, so we'll go first.
Hi Lee, thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed that. And coming from a disabled person myself, I think that what you were saying earlier about people quite often don't expect you to be a stand-up comedian. I think it's often that the impairment is seen before anything else. It kind of sort of is the master sort of signifier of identity. I just wondered if you could say something quickly about how you mentioned like the advances in technology, and how do you think that might affect your performance in the future?
One day I hope I'll have a device that can just read my mind. Although that could go very, very wrong.
Favorite pastime. Favorite pastime.
My favourite pastime is watching Netflix because I'm very lazy.
Still more questions coming, Lee. Geez, we're going to be here until afternoon tea time. Just a couple more, I think.
Hi Lee, would you still go on the updatables if they asked you now?
Apparently my friend won't allow it. So no.
That was the right answer. One more question at the back. You got the mic? Run, Shannon. Quick, faster, 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 faster.
Hi Lee. I was wondering if you think or see that you have a responsibility to speak up for the rights of people with disabilities, or do you already?
Yeah.
I feel like I do, but I'm not sure if I want to. Because no one should have a daft Geordie as a role model.
Yes, yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you very much, Lee.